Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Kristi and Kev's Happy Hour. It's been a while because I've been doing other things.
Yeah,
And so,
exactly. Outdoor things like you've got a fucking life and a career and
yes,
shit.
things in the
Selfish
real world.
bitch. Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And now my computer's making the noise, but yours was one of your hangouts. But yeah, so it's been a while, and it's good to hear your voice again, Kevin. And yeah, we can trade a little stories, warm it
Uh,
up a
th-
bit. How have you been? What's life been like for you?
don't patronise me for a start. No one wants to hear this accent ever. Jesus Christ. There are people who live near me that don't want to hear this fucking accent. Like, it's, frankly, I feel slightly insulted, but
Well,
I
you're
thank you nonetheless.
You are
I
just going to have to talk because it is your accent, so there's nothing you can do about it unless
Well,
you fake an
exactly.
accent.
Well, that's what I mean. Bizarrely, it sprung to mind when War Corps would do that thing where he goes like, "Oh, I'm Kevin Logan." Ha ha ha. Like, I don't put this on. This isn't an accent I'm putting on to sound less intelligent or whatever. Even though
Can
to
you
Americans apparently I sound more
can you
intelligent.
do the
It's
whole
ridiculous.
happy hour doing a war corpse accent?
What doing? Hang on, doing War Corps doing a British accent or
No,
just
no, no,
doing
just war corpse.
as War Corps? Oh no, I'm far too sober. I couldn't possibly. No, it wouldn't work. I mean, I've got a war corpse in the locker, so to speak. Not literally. That wasn't like a thing that you need to tell the police about. I mean, more specifically, I've got a war corpse accent that I could do,
Oh,
but,
okay. Can
but
you
I'd
do
need
one?
to
Can
I'd
we
need to
hear
be
it?
I need to be far more drunk.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well,
We'll have to
I
have
don't
that
know if
at
I
a
would have
hangout
been.
sometime.
I don't know if it would insult you because I mean it's I believe a neighbouring state to your home state, so I don't know if it
Well,
was.
the last time you tried that, you ended up sounding like Yosemite Sam, so I'm not that
Oh yeah, but
worried.
to be fair, that was an intentional joke. I realised that's nothing like the Wisconsin accent. That was the whole point of
But
that.
that was a good callback to an earlier episode that if people have been watching the series, will get the joke.
Exactly. And if you don't, then fuck you. I
Yeah,
don't care.
go watch
Anyway,
my stuff and put the ads on, bastards.
yes. Right. Yeah, right. Okay. So
Stuff
we've
with you.
got,
Wait. You had something big happen in the last week.
yeah, I started using the potty like a big boy. Yeah. Um, yeah. No, I've reached 7,000 subscribers. I started using the potty
Congratulations.
weeks ago. It's fine.
Who is,
It's
yeah,
just,
this is like months, like a month and a half at least.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got to 7,000 subscribers. So thank you to everyone. Hello to the new people. Hello to the old people. Yeah, it's nice. But you're nearly there as well. So, I mean,
I'm
we'll,
creeping up on 7, yeah,
yeah.
creeping. But I, of course, because I clear crap the detritus out of my comments. I don't have that troll cushion. You probably have about 200 hate followers, and that's why you're ahead of
Almost
me.
certainly, yeah. Well, I did. Well, I released a video a couple of days ago and it had 2 dislikes literally within seconds.
Yeah, I get that too.
Brilliant.
Yeah, like what do these people do that that comes
Yeah.
up in their subscription feed and they
And they just
immediately.
go, yeah, I'm going to go click and dislike that. And then off. And you think, well, that's fine and everything. But it's so silly because they think they're hurting you, but they're not because YouTube just wants interactions. YouTube doesn't care whether your video is absolutely despised or loved. It's that it's viewed and interacted with. So you clicking on it, giving it a view, and that thumbing it down helps the algorithm. You idiots. So go away. I mean, it doesn't
Or
bother me.
don't just keep interacting and pushing our content up to the
Yeah,
subscription
yeah, whatever,
recommendation.
man. I don't care whether they're there or not. Literally, whether you exist or not, whether you're alive or not, makes no difference to me. I so don't give a fuck.
But getting back to the 7,000 people you did give a fuck about.
No, the 6,800 people I care about. The 200
Oh,
are
right. The cushion.
stuck
We were
there.
those right. The
But
troll cushion.
yeah, there's 6,800 people. Yeah, thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and it crept up a lot because I had bizarrely I did for my 7,000 subscriber thing. I did a revamp of my game where I did Anders Breivik or YouTube anti-feminist, where I read out bits from
Oh,
the
that was
terrorist
great.
manifesto of Anders Breivik and bits from YouTube anti-feminists, and they're very similar, eerily and scarily so.
I
But I was
watched
expecting
that.
to do that in like a week or two, but because I had the video I did on the woman who said she was leaving the left even though she was never on the fucking left, and Sargon responded to that, so that drove some traffic my way. And then I did the um, Descent of Manosphere on Sargon and released that, so that was did quite well. And so I got about 200 subscribers in 3 days or something. Um, so yeah, I had to do that much earlier, which meant I had to speed read the last sort of half of Anders Breivik manifesto which is weird. That's a very strange document.
That's probably the best way to read it if you have to, speed read it. Like, you don't want to pore over those phrases and sentences and try to work them out.
Well, it's so bizarre because he talks about liberty and freedom all the time. You think, you killed loads of people, you prick. What are you talking about? You're on about, oh, well, the conservative opinions are being quashed. You literally took away 77 people's right to ever speak again. It's ridiculous. And that's ultimately where it is. These people don't care about free speech, which we'll get onto in a bit, I'm sure, with the Sam Harris thing, because that was infuriating. But yeah, but I did have two things to actually say before we get going, because we've got a.
Well, I was going to talk a little bit about my holidays too, so.
Oh yeah, but no one cares what you have to say. They're only here for me. I'm the fucking celebrity.
You are. You're the comedy.
I'm the straight. Lane.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. God damn it. Go on then. If we must finish your
thought.
If we must hear your fantastic career and the wonderful life you have and the friends and you going to fucking Harry Potter world.
Yeah, that was fun.
Geek.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys can watch the video, but it was a good holiday, and it felt a lot longer than it was, and it was a lot of fun. And I actually managed to get out a travel video, like literally in the airport, using the airport Wi-Fi, because I was there like an hour and a half early, and it took almost an hour and a half to upload on their Wi-Fi system. But I did it by not just doing the filming on the day, but doing the editing on the night. And that made a huge difference, because otherwise I'd have to like edit everything together, and then you've got 4 or 5 days worth of video, and it's just crushing. So that's my tip for anyone who wants to do travel videos, is make sure you buy a cheap editing software for your phone. If you can afford it, that would be the best way to go. And mine was like €7 or something. Anyway, I'm getting off track. But I didn't tell you how it ended, which is I got caught up in the strikes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I ended up, my flight was canceled due to industrial action in Germany, because the transport union here wants a pay rise. That's a pay raise for Americans. The result was, I knew that when I landed, I was going to have to get a taxi home. I'd prepared for that. But my flight was canceled like 2 hours before it was meant to leave, and there had been flights earlier in the day. But because I flew into Heathrow, but I flew out of Stansted, which is very close to where I went and did my PhD at the University of Essex. And I still have friends back in Colchester. So I just messaged a friend and said, I'm stuck at the airport. And she's like, that's great. My ex is taking the kids out, so the house is free. Come on over. And to cheer me up, she's a piercer. And so I got a new piercing. So that was a souvenir then for my flight being canceled.
Where did you get pierced?
I think it's called like a dermal plug, but it's like a stud that sticks out rather than being a piercing. And it's just below my belly button.
Oh, okay.
It's for me. Like, I don't do it for the world. Like, I've got my top pierced all the way through the belly button thing, but the bottom, yeah. So that's just because that's for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your holiday. Yeah, like I said, people should go and check out your video.
Yeah. But now you know the ending, which is the souvenir piercing. Kevin is speechless. Or you've gone away. What happened? Or did you freeze and drop out again? Oh, well, you can see his picture there. It's a pretty good shot if that's him frozen.
Yes, hello, sorry.
Back.
I froze there. I don't know what happened.
That's all right. It was a very pensive, sort of thoughtful clip that was frozen in place.
Well, I'm glad. Pensive was the look I was going for. So no, I'm sure you said something very insightful, and I totally missed it.
Yeah, well, that is usually what happens when you go freeze up. It's in my best moments. That's when I have to riff for a while you're away. Okay, so enough of this gay banter. Let's move on.
Indeed.
Let's move on to less fun stuff.
I've got one bit of fun stuff and then one bit of not so fun stuff, but still stuff that needs to be said. So we'll get the non-fun stuff. Below, I've asked Kristi to link, and indeed she has, a fundraiser for a friend of mine called Edible Napalm, who some will remember from the Dick Coughlin channel many years ago. He of the bitch beard fame, which sounds hideous, but it was actually quite a funny incident where even though he had a beard even more manly than mine, he kept getting called Miss by someone in a shop, and his angry rant that was delightful, and was immortalised by Coughlin in that clip.
Alliterative phrase.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah, his aunt and uncle are currently being harassed like fuck by debt collectors and stuff. So if you can go and help him out, there's the GoFundMe page link below. If you can go and donate to that, that would be awesome. Or just spread it around if you can't afford to donate. That would be awesome. Thank you. Yes. So with that out of the way, we've got to do a little bit of what do you call it?
Trivia.
Trivia. Yes,
Yeah.
I've got some trivia. It's a sports one, but before you turn off, it's not boring because this is a thing that we can all relate to. I think we can get something out of this. Yes. What is the height difference between the tallest and shortest players to ever play in the National Basketball Association?
Now I have to guess. 2 feet.
Not far off, actually. Not far off at all. 2 feet and 4 inches. Which, for those who insist on using metric measurements, that's 71.12 centimeters, which doesn't sound anywhere near as impressive, frankly. 2 feet 4 inches between the 7'7" Manute Bowl and 5'3" Muggsy Bogues, who, and delightfully, they for one season played on the same team together. So there's some wonderful pictures of them stood side by side, and technically they're the same species. It doesn't look like they are, but they are. Amazing.
That is delightful. I'd like to see that picture. Well, I have a non-sports one because Kevin joined the hangout a bit late. We did no prep.
Technically, I was on time. I was 2 minutes before we started, so that's on time.
When did the link go up?
Well, annoyingly, it went up 10 minutes rather than 14 minutes before. So that's the excuse I'm using.
That's another callback. Anyway, I have a non-sports one for people in the audience who sports trivia rolls off their brain. Right, and I kind of cheated because I got this from Paul's Quiz, which is a pub quiz website. I did one myself, and we were running late, and my computer was slow, and you weren't here, so I was like, right. So in Greek mythology, after being spurned by Narcissus, which heartbroken nymph pined away until only her voice remained?
Dave.
Yes. How did you know?
I don't know anything about Greek mythology, to be honest.
Oh, well, then this is a good piece of pub quiz trivia for you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you're covering a blind spot. All I know is Narcissus and drowning in the lake or the pond or whatever.
Yeah, yes. By the way, do you want to check the chat to see? Now that was the rolling the stone up the hill that would break.
It was, yes, indeed. Muggsy Bogues was one of the players who got their powers stolen in Space Jam. Indeed, he was. Sorry.
Space Jam call out.
Yeah, exactly.
Deep cut there.
Yeah. Someone saying Echo.
That Echo is correct.
Yeah, which is spelled wrong with a K apparently. So.
Well, I guess it was the sound of the word that really counted there. I don't know if I would have accepted the spelling, but the way it sounds is still correct.
Yes. Well, maybe that's the original Greek. Maybe that's what they're going with there. What the fuck am I talking about?
Empty speculation, I think, is a kind way to put it. Yeah, talking out your ass might be.
That was gibber. I said it and I thought, you're a fucking twat. Could have shut up. Jesus Christ. Anyway, talking of twats, talking of twats, David Smalley.
Oh, David Smalley, what a twat.
Yes. Quite so.
Right. So the next topic. No, so this was actually more salient when Kevin and I decided to do the hangout. It seems like a lot has happened since then. But I wanted to just bring some attention. Dave Smalley is from Dogma Debate and has had issues in the past, or not issues in the past, but he's been a controversial figure, shall we say. And he recently started to do some fundraising, saying that he needed a lot of money to keep his show on the air, and he needed to reach his target of so many patrons in order to do that. In response to that, in the comments on his Facebook page, somebody, and there's a tweet that I've linked below where the names are blotted out because it was a public Facebook page, but they kind of mentioned the person who he targeted as well. And so someone else had blacked that stuff out, but they blacked out everything. So that was what I shared. But in there, this person claims to have witnessed him harassing other people, Dave Smalley, as well as the fact that that person laughed when they read about the costs of the employees, because he said, I've never gotten paid, and the people I worked with, I was working on the program with, weren't getting paid. And that one time that he did pay for a hotel room at a conference, he then asked people to perform like sex acts in front of him and then played it off as a joke when he was refused. And that to me seemed, and this person again put their name to this stuff. That to me seems like exactly the kind of Me Too issue that is part of what we're pointing out about the systematic sexism and the culture of sexism that exists in the atheist movement. And this is another example of someone coming forward who knew him and worked for him, relating their experiences. And this to me was, well, now I'm getting infuriated talking about it. But did you have anything else on that, Kevin, that you, now that I've sort of described why I've linked the tweet?
Yeah, well, is it worth bringing the tweet up and actually just showing people?
Well, my computer is acting really slow, and so I'm just happy my voice isn't Dalek-y anymore. But if you have the link, because you've got, you can go, we can certainly bring it up, definitely. And it should be remembered that he had a not a great response to the Krauss allegations. In fact, I had forgotten I'd done this, but someone liked something I'd written. And I went to check out what it was because it didn't, like on the post, it didn't look familiar. So it was 3 weeks old as well. And in there, I had done a too long didn't read summary of what he said. And I was such a snarky bitch. I was like, about me, about my book, about me and my my publications, and more about me, about my book, and a little bit about Krauss, and think about how bad this is for Krauss. And it was pretty much snarky all the way down.
Well, if you screen lock or whatever,
yep. Yeah. So do you want to read out? I've got them in the right order, I think.
You read out you, and then I'll read out the actual.
All right. Another Me Too moral test for the white men who put themselves forward as thought leaders in movement atheism. How will Sam Harris, Matt Dillahunty, and Seth Andrews respond to allegations against David Smalley of sexually harassing his colleagues? Second chance to do the right thing.
Yes. Hang on, let me just click on the thing. It says, pay staff while, ? I quite literally laughed out loud when I read that. When blank and I were on there, we didn't get paid a dime. The only thing we got was that he paid for a hotel once at a convention we were all attending and then asked us to do sexual things in front of him because he paid for the room. Then he tried to play it off as a joke when we hardline refused. We were on the show for a year, and I can tell you from personal experience that it does not take nearly $10,000 to operate that show, especially because I know we weren't the only co-hosts and employees who weren't paid. Then there's this one at the top. He asked you to do sexual things. What shit? Holy shit, what the fuck? That right there is enough for me to 100% disown him and DD. I had no idea. And then someone else says, he repeatedly made jokes about wanting to sleep with blank. He repeatedly made unwanted advances on her, and we know she's not the only one. But no one will stand with her and other people in the movement who have either worked with him or been on the show to promote their own stuff have told her to stay silent because it might hurt the movement. Note the very similar way in which they would defend the movement as the Catholic Church would defend itself under similar allegations with children. Then someone else says, fuck that noise. With the traction of #MeToo, I bet there's someone who'd help get that out now, as long as it's safe for you. I don't want to cut that kind of trash getting away with that shit. Not in my movement. Goddamn, I invited him to SSA Con. Now I feel dirty. Yeah, that's pretty remarkable stuff.
Yeah, I thought so. And once it was sort of anonymized so that people who, were being talked about weren't being identified, I felt comfortable with sharing it, because the person speaks from, obviously, like talking about being a co-host, very close personal experience, and not just sort of one instance, but witnessing multiple instances.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not paying people who are employed, and then when you pay for the room, the feeling that they owe you some sort of sexual experience. You think it's so unbelievably creepy.
And I think this is the thing, though. It's a sense of entitlement. It's what, Louis C.K. flattered himself into thinking women wanted to watch him masturbate. Harvey Weinstein would, trap a woman in a place and masturbate in front of her like she was a live Playboy magazine for him. And it is precisely that kind of entitlement that is at the root of the problem, the toxic masculinity there, in terms of a culture that defines men by their sexuality, and then also says it's okay to have power over people and use that to leverage sex.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's non-stop, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if you want to move on to the David Silverman thing as well.
Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, it appears he's now been roped into having not roped in. He roped himself in by his own actions. It would appear into a Me Too moment as well.
Yeah, that's a little bit more, I mean, ambiguous, because the last that I knew, the board of it's American Atheists, or I forget.
American Atheists.
Yes, had put him on leave, basically, booted him because they called it like a serious complaint came forward, and they were taking it seriously, and then so they were replacing him while they conducted this review, I guess, but they didn't say anything about the nature of it. The only thing is that PZ Myers also cryptically, we had on the happy hour, cryptically said this was something that's been coming for a while, and he had known about it, or something to the effect of, this is, not, I guess this is another one of those, perhaps in certain circles, open secrets, or at least people talk to others that they have confidence in, or whatever. So, I mean, we don't know precisely what the content is, but certainly it has the hallmarks of being that kind of complaint.
Yeah. Some of the mood music, let's say, coming out from certain camps seems to suggest that that's the case. And I'm happy to take it on tick that this is the sort of thing that it is, because American atheists have not necessarily always been brilliant about coming forward with these things. So if they're taking it seriously, I can only imagine it must be pretty serious, I would think. But that's probably about as much as we can say at this point.
You mean as the outrage brigade?
Yeah, well, indeed, yes. I mean, we clearly are just looking to cause trouble and hurt the movement. It's not like there's an actual problem with sexual molestation or anything like that. No.
Right. Well, what else would agents of chaos do?
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Troublemakers. That's all we are. Just troublemakers, rather than actually seeking, justice for those who have had crimes committed against them by leaders in the movement,
or been violated, maybe not in a legal sense, like in certain forms of harassment aren't illegal, but certainly on a moral plane or moral level, certainly.
Yes,
we can all recognize that is not what we would expect in our leaders, nor should we tolerate it.
Indeed so. Yeah, it's and as you say, David Smalley was one of these that came out and essentially, without giving a damn, exonerated Krauss. He had Krauss on his show after the allegations were made known, didn't he? He doesn't, and he's going about basically trying to obfuscate and put blame on those who made accusations, and it turns out that he is just as bad. So essentially, he had skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what these fucking predators do, is they look after. And again, it's that I make the allusion to it because I think it's absolutely correct. The way in which they say, "Oh, it would hurt the movement." That's exactly what the Catholic Church did with the pedophile scandal.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to protect Mother Church.
Yeah, definitely. Did you freeze up again? Between my... Oh, you're back again. All right. I was just wondering if people in the chat, if you could check our sound differences. This is something that I've noticed about our Hangouts, is that I'm much louder than Kevin. And he's tried changing the mic, but just to see if I need to back off a little bit or you need to speak up a little bit. If people in the chat
we've had no complaints, which we've had when it has been a problem. So I think it's, yeah.
All right, so it's evened out. All right. Have there been complaints that you've not forwarded to me in Hangouts in the past, Kevin?
Well, people complain, and the thing is, I don't care about the fucking people in the chat. I've said this a million times. I
care about the fact that I then have to go and download it and change the Audacity, or change it in Audacity to compress our audio so that we're not blowing people out when I'm talking and people are leaning into the speakers when you're talking, and then amplify everything and produce it as a wave and upload a second video.
But Kristi, you don't have to do that. It's because you care about your audience.
I do.
I don't give a shit. If they can hear me, that's a bonus. I don't really care. I just speak into a microphone. If people hear me or understand me, you know, it's a happy coincidence, frankly. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Oh God, I'm only joking, people. I do care
A little bit,
a
but
little
not
bit.
very
But
much.
the thing is, in Hangouts, it's difficult to really know quite what's coming across and what isn't until you watch it back. And then, but I don't watch it back because I'm too busy watching sport. Fuck that. I don't watch shit back.
Well, I do. Yeah, I
People,
do sound quality checks. I'm a
well,
nerd.
yeah, well, because I've got some like new people to the channel because of the Carl Descent of Manosphere and stuff. A lot of people have been going back and watching those videos and commenting and stuff. And they'll be saying they'll you know, contact me on Twitter or Facebook or something about something I said in one of those videos, and I don't remember. Did I say that? Okay, fine. I don't remember because I've watched it a million times whilst editing the bastard. I don't ever want to watch it again. I'm fucking sick of it. Jesus.
Done and dusted, out the door. What's next?
Exactly.
All right. So that was a bit of a nice tangent and bit of banter. I guess next up is, do you have anything up, but now that we've talked about Dave Silverman, before we move on to Harris and Klein?
No, I think we should move on to racism from sexual assault.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, yeah. We always hit the fun topics on our hangouts.
Exactly. Well, it's called happy hour, but I mean,
It's anything but.
I can only imagine it's the kind of happy hour you get if you work at fucking Samaritans or something. You know what I mean? That's the kind of happy hour we're dealing with here, people.
Oh, that's a very British joke. I don't think any of the Americans will get it, but
Depression
that's okay. We'll
o'clock.
move on. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean, we have to call it the happy hour, otherwise nobody would come and listen to all the miserable topics we
exactly.
cover.
Just call it. Oh, just ennui at best hour. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, there we go. Oh, we. Wow,
yeah.
yes. There's a
just just crippling depression for about 60 minutes, maybe. Sometimes we overrun. Who cares? Nothing matters.
malaise. How about that?
Nihilism's the way to go.
The nihilism hour.
A way of spending an hour between now and the inevitability of death. That's what we should call that.
I don't think it'll fit in the YouTube. Kristi and Kevin's final mediocre hour you spend between now and your. Yeah, I think it's too long. But you know, we
That's
can
what she
workshop
said.
it. Maybe we can. We can workshop it.
Well, I missed one
Moving
of
right
those.
along.
I missed a really good one earlier when you said it was longer than I thought it would be.
All right.
No, it felt longer than I thought it was or something. I thought, oh, damn, I missed that one. But the moment's gone. The moment's
Yeah,
gone.
but you had a second chance and you didn't hesitate. You know,
No, exactly.
shoot the gap, man. Just
That's
go
what
for
she
it
said.
like Frogger.
So you can say that to almost anything, and it sort of becomes, well, it's not funny. It's a shit old joke, but it's because it's a shit old joke that it becomes almost funny again.
Yeah, yes. If you use it sort of ironically.
Yeah, which I mean, I don't know. I'm fucking rambling.
All right.
Anyway, let's get on to leading atheists being fucking neo-Nazi scum. Brilliant.
Part 2.
Yay.
Okay. Yeah, let's moving on to the next bunch of shit atheists. Harris and Klein. I kind of did the background for the last one. Do you want me to take this one, or you want to talk a little bit?
You can take the thing, and then I'll rant basically.
Well, yeah. So there was a write-up of a Sam Harris, Charles Murray podcast from a while ago, recently in Vox, and Sam objected. He had his feelings hurt, and so he contacted. Anyway, he and Ezra Klein. He started, I don't know, complaining about stuff, and Ezra Klein and he started a dialogue. And they first tried to go on email to go back and forth and understand each other, and it didn't go well. It didn't go that well for Sam's in Sam's view, and he ended up publishing the emails and got a lot of blowback from it, and then had Ezra on his show.
That was one of the funniest elements of all of this. He released those emails thinking they would be killer. They would reveal Ezra as this disgraceful piece of shit, and actually, all of Sam Harris's fans went, "Sam, you sound like a dick. The fuck, man."
Actually, in the podcast, there is a point where he interrupts Ezra Klein it's a long one, and I haven't entirely finished it, but I've listened to most of it. It's Harris who's interrupting, you know. He interrupted Ezra Klein on the premise that, well, if you start talking about this, you know, I can already hear listener, you know, sort of frustration because we're getting away from the main topic. And he does this he has this assumption that his fans think the way he does, and so he can kind of, when his fans didn't give him the adulation and reinforcement he thought he was entitled to or expected to get, he was like, how did you guys not see him, gaslighting me and being sarcastic or whatever? And yeah, it was just, and the podcast, the first part of it was a lot of Sam and his feels, certainly. Anyway, so Ezra Klein went on and they had a discussion about Charles Murray, and there's been some reactions to that. And so we were gonna kind of talk about that. And I've linked a couple different things in the description box below. And one of them is especially good, and that's the Vox article that talks about Murray and the fact that his work is embedded in a larger agenda that is policy outcomes. He has specific kind of policy outcomes that he has in mind, and he definitely, in his book After the Bell Curve, uses evidence, tries to assemble evidence in such a way that it agrees with what seems to be his predetermined outcomes, and that he's not a scientist, he's a policy person. He has political goals.
He's not a scientist. And I mean, my favorite aspect of that was when he tried to say that white people had achieved more than black people because he counted up the column inches for white and black people in the Encyclopedia Britannica, and the surprise was there was more about white people, and therefore white people are better. Like, this isn't, not only is this not science, this is the kind of shit a 7-year-old can see through. It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, why didn't he take a translation of a Chinese encyclopedia and go through and count I mean, the fact that, he's taking an English language book in order, it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, exactly. And not just that, but one written and established during and by colonialists. Yeah, surprise, surprise, it had a focus on how great white people were and wasn't so fantastic about how great black people were. Yeah, amazing. I bet it didn't go into extensively into, the advancements of Chinese people and how basically the modern mathematics and numerology and stuff was invented by the Arabs. Didn't bother go into any of that stuff, no.
Yeah, you might get one person, but you're not going to get a whole body of people who contributed or built on it. Yeah. Minor, we would consider minor people.
They're not going to focus on those things. They're going to focus on how great white people were. I mean, it's confirmation bias run amok. And Sam Harris is just such a fucking, at best, useful idiot, at worst, active participant in this fucking absolutely racist pseudoscience bullshit. And anyone who takes him seriously from now on can actually go fuck themselves. I'm done.
The thing that frustrates me is, as a social scientist, this idea that you can take a concept that we've constructed out of our society, like intelligence. Intelligence isn't like measuring physics. We have to build a whole way to measure it. And the idea that, there are these measures and we've been using them and they measure things consistently and therefore there's some there. Let me give the example of a finding that came about as part of the 2005 British election study that I was involved in. Since the beginning of polling, the question used has been, do you consider yourself a member of the Labour Party, a Conservative, a Liberal Democrat, Green, or something else? And for decades, one of the things they reported was that Britons had sort of relatively higher levels of partisan identification than, let's say, Americans. And that was like a consistent finding year and year and year. In 2005, someone wanted to do a wording experiment. So in the survey, they first asked, do you consider yourself a member of a political party? And if they said yes, then they were asked, do you consider yourself Labour, Conservative, Liberal Democrat, or what? And what they found was that the rate of partisan identification overall dropped 10 points. Because the first question assumed a partisanship. But if you actually took the time to ask people whether or not they considered themselves a partisan, some people, 10% more than said no. So which measure is accurate? Well, obviously the second one is more accurate, but you've got a consistent measure going back to the start of, survey wording and the British election study. So, the idea that even in social science, our measures can get better and we can understand things better. So to treat the science, to treat the application of the scientific method to the concept of intelligence, right, doesn't make all the findings science in the way that sort of it's neutral and therefore doesn't have a context that we don't have to take into consideration,
Yeah,
like slavery, Jim Crow, and things.
yeah, exactly. But this is the thing. It's the removal of things from their context, which is absurd. Like he does the usual faux skeptic thing of going, well, scientific facts can't be racist. Well, yeah, in isolation, of course, they can't be racist because they don't
But
have
the people who
objectivity.
create the measures can be,
Exactly. And of
consciously
course,
or unconsciously.
and just because it's a fact doesn't mean that it's been brought about naturally in the same way that a
Mm-hmm.
waterfall would be, or some other actual natural scientific thing. When it's a human construct like intelligence, or human measurement like intelligence, obviously there are huge amounts of social factors involved. And to just say that there's nothing racist there about this, and we can't mention going about, he mentions one point over slavery had nothing to do with it. How can you possibly know that? I mean, I'm pretty fucking sure it did have something to do with it, and its lasting effects, like you say with Jim Crow, which is still within living memory. That's not something that's fucking dead and gone. As indeed, I mean, Charles Murray, when he first came onto the scene in the 70s, was going about, well, Jim Crow's ended now, therefore it doesn't matter. And that was only 15, 20 years afterward,
Right.
10 years afterward. um it's absolutely ridiculous. And ultimately what shows Sam Harris up to be a fucking cultist at this point is the fact that when Ezra was bringing up evidence from the scientist whose name, or the point that was made by it was, oh, what's his name, Flynn.
Yeah, the
um
Flynn effect.
yeah, yeah, he was saying he'd been in contact with him via email and literally quoted him verbatim, saying that the 10-point difference we see could actually be a 12-point negative from social factors, but actually 12 plus from negative factors, but 2 minus for race. So actually, it could be a factor within the realms of possibility that black people are inherently 2 points better on IQ, which is, I mean, 2 points is fuck all, and IQ tests are inherently unreliable anyway. But even so, it basically means that this idea that white people are inherently smarter than black people from some genetic factor is probably a load of old fucking bollocks. It's probably completely fucking untrue. And Sam Harris just goes, "Well, I know what the interpretation spin you're putting on this, Ezra," and then goes on to basically back up or try and claim that Murray was right all along. And that's the thing. He's not refining anything here. He's not saying, like he occasionally will say, "Well, I don't necessarily agree with everything that Murray says," and then goes on to say exactly that he actually does. He's agreeing with what Murray's basic claims are, even though it's pseudoscientific trash that we know is based on bad science from organisations that we know are inherently racist, that are literally there to try and prove white supremacy.
I'm going to go back a little bit and be a social science nerd and quibble with one thing you said about science, about intelligence tests. I wouldn't say that they're, I wouldn't say they're unreliable. I would say they're not definitive. And the reason why I would say they're not reliable is because in the social sciences, reliability means the ability of a measure to measure something consistently. Can you rely on this measure to be accurate? And for what it's measuring, like the tests that they've constructed and the way they've constructed them, you get similar outcomes over time. So from a social scientific point of view, that metric is reliable. Whether or not it's accurate is another question. But I would say that, and it wouldn't even say that they're not accurate. They could be measuring something, but they're not definitive. Because again, like with my example, I'm going to finish my statement because I waited for you. Because like with my measure with party identification, if you force people to choose a party, they do. And some people say, I don't feel a member of the party, but I feel closer. And this is, I'll feel closer to the labor, but I don't think of myself as labor. And for political science purposes, you might want to just group the feels close and identifies together. So that would I say again about how our measures can be refined.
I think that's a bit, well, not just a bit. I think that's ridiculously nitpicky, frankly.
Well, I have to be. I'm a scientist.
You don't have to be. This isn't science we're doing here. This is just.
But it's my chance to educate. It's an educational happy hour.
It's not. No, this is the whole point of this. This was supposed to be just people talking in a pub.
This is how I talk.
Oh God! Well, we need to get you drunk. Just Jesus Christ. Anyway, okay, right. Caveat accepted.
Thank
They're,
you. Because
IQ
I'm
tests are
right.
fucking shit. They
Now
measure
you're right.
nothing.
Now we're both right.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Um,
But getting
yeah,
back
but
to Sarah Harris and
yeah,
how, yeah.
yeah, but like I say, the basic point remains that he's essentially wedded now to the idea of white racial supremacy, in essence, and will do anything to try and protect that. And that's what I mean. He's not. I don't think we can just look at him even really as just a useful idiot anymore. I think he's an active participant in this. He's tried to back up Charles Murray at every fucking turn, rather than just accepting that it was wrong to have this pseudoscience garbage on his show. He's now wedded to the idea, and fuck him. Anyone who takes him seriously, you're dead to me.
Yeah, I do think that he tended to hide behind this sort of idea that science is somehow neutral, it can be discussed independent of the context of the impact that the policy that's being justified by that data, as if the person who, sort of put together that book didn't have those views going into it. And that's something you have to be like aware of. It's why we have peer review, where I have independence. We have certain very specific tests, and we have studies over time, and we question things, and there aren't definitive claims. If you read an academic paper, they say, well, these conclusions match up with other conclusions, but they don't say this is the truth. They don't say this is what we can know definitively about the link between the color of your skin and how smart you are. Because, how are those two things related other than we put them together? I mean, this is it. What's the causal mechanism here? And that's a big part of the gap. Like, if you're saying that there's a genetic component, well, then that genetic component, we should be able to find it, right? So how do you link skin tone with these IQ tests? And as much as they want to dismiss, overstating the social factors, I've never heard of I've never seen the test of a good causal mechanism where you can actually like go from a gene to go to the expression of a gene and then go to these tests and look at it, sort of independent of a person's ethnicity. Anybody who's got this particular gene on this chromosome and this expression will have a 5-point reduction in their IQ test. But that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Once you drill down into any attempt to revive racial science, and that's basically all this is. This is racial science reborn as trying to give it the veneer of actual science. You find out that there aren't those links. There are societal factors which lead to differences between people, and there are very, very slight. Human biodiversity, which isn't the racist concept they're trying to make it now. The actual concept whereby, for instance, people who've lived in communities in mountainous regions have slightly better ways of absorbing oxygen and things like that. There are very, very slight physical differences, but that's all, and that's based on again environmental factors. It's not an innate thing to that group of people. Once you drill down, those differences aren't really there. They're just not there. There's no innate smartness to one group over another. There's plenty of variation within all of those groups as well.
Yeah, and that was something that Harris brought up in sort of a defense of himself. And like I said, I haven't listened to it all the way to the end, but he was kind of pretty much sticking to his guns that the science is the science, and it's political correctness gone mad if we try to look at the context around the science in a way to say maybe the science itself is not what you think it is. It's not measuring what you think it's measuring.
Well, this is ultimately the thing that was really, really fucking annoying, was when Sam Harris would go, and this proves the point actually that I've been making for a while. These people don't want free speech; they want consequence-free speech. Sam Harris kept saying, "I'm worried about the social penalty for raising these topics." Been a social penalty for raising controversial topics. It's never existed, even within science. We all now accept most people accept the theory of evolution. That was incredibly controversial and had a huge social cost potentially for Darwin, and Darwin knew it. That's why he held off from publishing for so long. Whenever you bring up something controversial, there's going to be potentially some cost to that. If you bring up a controversial political viewpoint, there's going to be some social cost to that. The idea that there's ever been a time, or ever could be a time, where there wouldn't be some sort of social penalty for bringing up something controversial is absurd. I'm sorry, Sam. If you're going to be a fucking bigoted streak of shit, people are going to call you on that. Tough shit. Free speech works for them as much as it does for you.
And as Ezra Klein pointed out, this is a guy who speaks routinely on television shows, and he's got a job at some, like research place, and he got a $250,000 grant recently to do his work. And, so he is not without a platform. And what Sam is upset about is the fact that he got protested by a few college students.
Exactly.
Despite not a victim of, this free speech, suppression brigade.
He was going on about, he's one of the most, what's it called? Suppressed people in America. Suppress me. He's had fucking book deals and fucking tours, and like you say, you got this fucking massive grant.
You had your channel taken down. You've had more of your speech suppressed than he.
Exactly. If you're going to suppress me, if that's suppression, suppress me. Suppress me now. For fuck's sake. Ridiculous. Same thing I had with Sargon when he was going about Andrew Anglin, the Daily Stormer guy, being suppressed. He's one of the most suppressed people ever. No, he's alive and not in jail. He isn't being suppressed. He's being protested by some people that you don't like. I'm sorry, he hasn't been killed for his views. He hasn't been imprisoned for his views. He's not being fucking suppressed. He's being debunked.
Yeah, but of course, well, anyway, you know how this goes. Criticism. Criticism is suppression in their eyes when we do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. Apparently, they've got the absolute right to say whatever they like. But if you say something back, that's you suppressing their free speech. That's not you using your free speech to say something you want. Apparently, that doesn't matter. No, you're not allowed to use your free speech to criticize this person because it's their free speech, right? No, fuck you. Fuck Charles Murray and fuck Sam Harris. If you support either of them, you go fuck yourself with barbed wire.
Every week it's something new.
Well, it should be, because I'm sorry, these people, the people I talk about, it takes a lot for me to bother to get the fucking wherewithal to actually make a video or to say anything on the internet, because I'm a lazy prick. And so it takes a lot. It takes, frankly, fucking evil. And I've no compunction in saying that Charles Murray is an evil man for me to get up here and actually bother. So fuck yeah. So it involves me wishing harm upon them, basically. And again, not a threat of violence. I'm saying they should fuck themselves with barbed wire.
Yeah, it's a suggestion.
Exactly. A serving suggestion.
Right. I don't think either of them will ever hear this podcast or even give a crap if they did. So.
Well, I can only imagine that they're too busy, being suppressed at their speaking gigs, obviously.
Yes, yeah. They have bigger concerns to worry about than picking out a side of barbed wire.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anything else. Did you have anything else? That you had something that you were ranting about? Sorry, about your channel recently. Some kind of hypocrisy with a free speach issue.
Oh yeah. Yasmin Abdul Majid, who Australians will probably be aware of. She's a 27-year-old broadcaster, author, political speaker, that sort of thing. Rather famous or infamous, I suppose, in Australia. She said some things that I don't like, find distasteful, including one point when she said she's a Muslim, by the way. That's the sort of the core of the point, actually. And at one point she said that Islam was the most feminist religion, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but, so she said some dumb shit in her time, but ultimately she's a relatively harmless person. And she was in America due to speak at some gig or another, and there was a small problem with the paperwork for her visa. Now that does give America grounds to remove her from the country, but this has happened several times, including to there was a noted white non-Muslim Australian conservative speaker who had exactly the same problem last year and wasn't kicked out of America.
That's BS.
But yes, yeah, exactly. And even the Australian immigration minister said that this was a very unusual step from America, and that they would be seeking clarification from the American authorities as to why this had happened.
Good.
Yeah, and she was due to speak about being a Muslim in the modern world in America. It was a paid gig, so she needed a work visa and all of that. And like I said, there was a small problem with the paperwork, which they could have sorted out and all the rest of it, but they decided to just put her on a plane and fly her to the Netherlands for some fucking reason. Which is obviously fucking terrible. That shouldn't happen. Like I say, it's a hypocrisy. If America had that policy for everyone across the board, okay, fine, that's technically within their rights and all the rest of
Yeah,
it.
it's about fair application.
Yeah, but that's not what happened here. And so I just put a little rant yesterday about how there's very same people who was absolutely incensed, furious, indignant with rage that Britain had stopped Martin Selner, Brittany Pettibone, and Lauren Southern from entering the UK to spew their hatred. Are absolutely silent, nothing but crickets on the matter of this actual abuse of free speech.
And she didn't
Yeah.
shoot flares at anybody, did she?
No, as far as I'm aware, Yasmin Abdul Mughid has not involved herself in any kind of seafaring based terrorism activity, unlike Miss Southern, who has. So yeah, that's
I'm not laughing. I'm just laughing at your phraseology because I like the way you put things, and so I'm not laughing at the thing. Like obviously, fuck her.
you are laughing at piracy, and that is a disgraceful thing to do. You
Well,
should be ashamed of yourself.
yeah.
Um,
Ancient
yeah,
piracy, fun. Modern piracy.
exactly. Well, that's the thing. The problem with the modern pirates, no peg legs and eye patches, and
No.
parrots on the shoulder. That's they need to, they. I'm not saying I want a job as the PR manager for modern piracy, but I think I could jazz it up a bit. You know what I mean? What the fuck am I talking about? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and neither is Miss Abdul Magid. She hasn't involved herself with people who go to SS memorial events, unlike Martin Selner, who, by extension, by being in a relationship with Brittany Pettibone, I think it's safe to say that Brittany Pettibone doesn't have a particular problem with that either. And yet, those three people, it was terrible that Britain stopped them from coming in, but apparently it's absolutely irrelevant that America abused its own immigration laws to stop a black Muslim woman from speaking about being a black Muslim woman. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why they had a problem with one and not the other.
Things that make you go, hmm.
Indeed.
Do you remember that song?
I don't. I'm gonna fucking
Really?
clue. I was humouring you. I haven't got a clue what you're talking about.
Isn't that like some kind of factory, some sort of music factory? Things that no, I think that was yeah. We'll have to look that up afterwards. Things that make you go hmm. Things that make you go hmm hmm hmm. People over the age of 40, like me, will remember that. But maybe it didn't
Well,
come over to the Britain. Maybe it wasn't quite your jam.
well, I've got literally nothing to say. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's a song, apparently.
Yeah,
I've got that much.
yeah.
And then you talk about a fucking factory, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe people in the chat can rescue us. I'm going to say it's CC
No,
Music
we're
Factory.
beyond rescue at this point, I think.
Well, we're also out of topics, and we've got 8 minutes left. So
Well,
now
I think we can wrap it up because we've gone over many times.
that is true.
So I think we can cut it a little bit short.
Ooh! Oh, dang it! I should have done this first. Sorry, I have to plug something. On Sunday, I'm going to be hosting a panel with Einid, Steve Shives, and Christiosity. And we're going to be talking, it's a part of the OrbitCon online conference. And we're going to be discussing like being a progressive secular content creator and like where you can find it, how you can make it, the challenges and sort of, that kind of stuff. So if you go to the link in the description box, if you go to the link in the description box below, there will be a link that will take you to a description of the panel. And I think you can submit questions there. So we're looking for some written questions that we can consider while we're on the air because I don't know how the chat is going to work. So if you have questions for any of us on making content or anything like that.
I would suggest that it would be really bad, and you shouldn't do this, to go there and ask, what are some of the things that make you go, You shouldn't do that. That would be a terrible thing to do.
You know, what I told you about, I asked you about Crunk on Britain, if you'd seen it.
Philomena Crunk. No, I haven't seen it yet. I plan on though, because it's a funny character from the Charlie Brooker series. Yeah,
so good. I laughed so hard. But one of the best questions she asked a political editor was, "What's the most political thing that's ever happened in British history?"
That's actually a fucking brilliant question.
And I won't spoil the reaction because it's part of the joke. But maybe I'll link that in the description box below. It's on YouTube. Probably shouldn't be, but it is. And so quick, go watch it before it gets taken down.
Well, as it's just been broadcast, I'm almost certain it definitely shouldn't.
So it's our secret. Don't tell anybody. But
Well, this is really annoying, right? A few times I've tried to use clips from the British Parliament in videos, and it sometimes it gets copy struck. Sometimes one time it got copy struck by a random Pakistani company, and I had to say, you literally have no right to claim this at all.
yeah, this does not belong to you.
That one got overturned, which was nice. I didn't mention, and also it's actually the BBC who should be copy striking this.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, sometimes it does, and it's really annoying because I paid for that twice. I paid for the MPs to be there and for it to be filmed through taxation, and I paid my fucking license fee. So I've paid for that footage twice, and I can't fucking use it.
And it should be fair use. It should be fair use. If you
Well, yeah, but the problem is the BBC is a big corporation, and I'm not going to court against them, and it's just a nightmare. And
no, that's fair.
YouTube are so shit because they should realise that the only reason their platform even exists as like a vaguely fucking money making endeavour is because people illegally put shit up there in the first place. I signed up for my account, the account I use now, like my main account, in 2006 to watch bootleg copies of The Daily Show, which shouldn't have been on the fucking thing. And a lot of people used to upload entire fucking comedy routines and stuff, and films and all sorts.
Back in the day.
Exactly, and so YouTube should bear that in mind and be a little bit more forgiving in terms of, certainly a little bit more content provider oriented rather than corporation oriented when applying fair use law.
Well, it would seem to me. I mean, I think they don't have a chair. I think if the complaint is submitted, they have to proceed. I don't think actually YouTube has a choice because they aren't the ones who would adjudicate whether or not it was fair use. That would have to be done by a court. So all they can do is facilitate the injunction or whatever it is, or the copyright claim. So I think in this case, it's a shit thing, but I don't actually think they have any legal standing to say, no, actually that would be qualifying under fair use in a court of law, because you need a judge for that. Sorry.
Okay.
One less reason to hate YouTube, but there's so many more. It's not like we're out of reasons to hate YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we managed to waffle on for a further several minutes, so now we're only going to be 3 minutes short. Oh yeah, so before I go, go do the thing for the thing on Sunday. Go to the link. You'll be able to.
What the fuck? No, hang on. Start that again. That was bollocks.
Do the link.
Go to the thing for the thing.
Write the questions. They heard what was in my head.
We speak English on this channel. God damn it!
I do anyway.
Oh, occasionally, yeah. No, you speak American, which is just absurd. Oh,
it's the evolved British language. It evolved into American English.
Yoldov is not evolution. That is devolution.
Winningest.
Yeah, winningest. Fucking winningest. God damn it.
So yeah, go to the link to go to the page to submit questions for the panel. And Kevin, do you have something you want to plug on your channel?
Yeah, you should go to my thing and then go to the thing and click the button and watch my thing.
So your 7,000 sub video.
Yeah, go and watch that, where I compare people I don't like to a terrorist.
That's such a Kevin thing to do.
Brilliantly, I literally put as the description to that video, there's no way this video gets monetized, because it literally has Anders Breivik, the name of a terrorist, in the title, and it got monetized. Brilliant.
And in the meantime,
I put a 40-second video of my cat playing with some string a couple of months ago. That got demonetized or put into like limited ads or whatever. And yet the video where it literally got a terrorist's name in the title and I read out bits from his murderous manifesto, that was fine. Yeah, that can get monetized. Coca-Cola were happy to have their name associated with that video.
And this hangout was demonetized before it even went on air.
Of course it
Honestly,
was.
no, seriously, it was. I had to appeal it before I even clicked start the hangout.
Oh, genius! What's within the title of this that's possibly remotely offensive?
Well, honestly, Smalley, Harris.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
No, I'm joking.
I mean, they're assholes, but I mean, I don't see that that's discussion of these things is bad. And also, how do they know we're even talking about Sam Harris? We could be talking about fucking Calvin Harris.
Who's Calvin
Oh,
Harris?
you don't know Calvin Harris is a music star. He did the
No, Calvin
Acceptable
Coolidge.
in the 80s
Oh, that
song.
one. Oh, yeah, I know the
Yeah,
song.
yeah. Yeah, he's a
Right.
Scottish shit music producer.
So there you go. Kevin's song is Born in the 80s, and mine is Things That Make You Go, hmm. Which is for people who were born
That's
in after the 80s.
oh, please, Christ. Well, I don't even know your song, but I know the song that I mentioned is shit. So I can only imagine that
The song
that's
I
not.
listen is probably shit by now too. I don't.
Yeah, well,
Some music doesn't
that
last.
it doesn't speak well to musical taste that those are the two songs we've mentioned. Even if I don't like the song, I've mentioned one song in this, and it's dreadful.
Or you
Brilliant.
can actually do the full circle and be so bad that you end up being good again, like Rick Astley, and never going to give you up.
No, Rick Astley is human. No, I'm not going to swear. He basically doesn't make very good music. I'll leave it there.
So
I'm not going to defend him because I've got nothing against him as a person. I don't know him, but his music's shit. So I mean,
but Rick
that's
rolling, come on. That
well, yeah,
puts a
the Rick
smile on
Rolling
your
was fun
face.
for a bit, and I love the fact when the New York Mets baseball team literally got Rick rolled in their own stadium. That was genius. Um, but yeah, that was a kind of fun bit of memery. The song is dreadful though.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. You're never going to hear an acoustic version of Never Going to Give You Up, are you?
Well, you'd be surprised what song. Like, I was listening to an acoustic version of "Hey Ya" by Outkast the other day, and it was actually very good. You think, well, that wouldn't work as an acoustic song, and it does.
Well,
Brilliant.
I double dare you then to find an acoustic version of Never Gonna Give You Up and put it at the end of one of your DOMs.
No, I'm never. I only put good songs at the end of that.
It might be a
Um,
good song if it's done with an acoustic guitar, though.
no, because it's still. I'm never going to give you up. Never going to let you
Everybody
down.
on Twitter, send
Um,
Kevin your favorite version of your acoustic Never Gonna Give You Up version.
no,
Maybe
because
Michael Rollins will do one
the
for you.
lyrics to that song are literary aids. I mean, it's. I'm
I
not
want
doing.
Michael Rollins to serenade you now. Somebody go on Twitter and get Michael to send that tweet
Well,
to Kevin and tag me in. Add me on that shit.
Michael can serenade me any day. I mean, my
There
pants
you
are off.
go. And
My
he's
pants are
ginger too.
metaphorically and literally off for that man. Definitely.
Well, now we're 2 minutes over, so we managed to faff enough to get us past the finish line. All right, so
Okay.
go watch shit on Kevin's channel, watch more shit on mine, take off the ad blocker, and yeah, share it around. So until next time, you guys, I've been Kristi. Kevin's been less annoying this time. He was you guys in the chat have been awesome, being ignored most of the time. We appreciate that, and you guys in the
I
queue for
don't.
watching
I
it
don't.
too.
You fuck yourselves. Go on your way.
We appreciate you. So
You
goodbye from
don't.
me, and goodbye from Kevin. Say goodbye, Kevin.
Goodbye, Kevin. Raspberry noise.
No, you have to do it. I did it. I made so you would do it.
Fucking
Nice
hell.
false start.
We're doing education on the show, are we? Fucking hell.
All right, bye, you guys.